Yep. Check, 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 check. Yeah, yeah. My headphones aren't working. So. That's yours. No, which one?
Which one? I'm number 1.
That's 3. Needs to be on.
All right, there you are.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And you guys went to the beach as well?
Yeah, we went to
Somewhere
Carolina
else?
Beach and then Wrightsville Beach right after that. And so.
So we're all back. We're all here.
Yep. It was a very good time. It was very restful, very relaxing. And
Yeah, I've done it once, and I didn't want to do it again.
dude,
You really have to have a good stroller. My wheels were kind of wobbly, and it made it really hard.
yes, like super, super hard. I don't know. I don't know how she does it all the time.
Julianne?
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
awkward to run with. It's like the Burden Run event where you had to carry that thing on
Uh-huh.
your shoulder.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, bro, pushing something on a long run would be miserable. Absolutely miserable. You can't use your arms.
You kind of
It's so
like
strange.
push it out in front of you 5 or 6 feet,
Yeah,
and then you kind of
yeah.
chase it. So you feel like you're just chasing
Yeah,
your daughter the entire time.
it was.
But you have a double stroller, so it's
Yeah, 2 of those bad areas in
even
there.
wider.
Yeah.
Wider.
Yeah, it's like, I'm probably pushing 50 or 60 pounds. They probably both weigh 20 pounds. Stroller weighs 10 maybe.
Yeah. You seem to jump right back into it, though.
Well, that was my point, was like that 14 days off minus the 1 run, coming back, first workout back, 60-minute AMRAP of 5.
I mean, it was the 4th of July, so we had, the hero hour workout. It was excessive for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It went
You seem to
great.
jump right back into it. And,
I mean, it was
I mean,
fine.
if I take 2 weeks off, I've done a week off one time, and I came back and I felt awful.
Yeah, I mean, my body felt great. My lungs didn't,
Yeah.
like, at all.
Like, I get that, like, when you do Fran, you kind of get that, like, nauseous, sick feeling. Like, I get that right away when I come back after taking time off. It's like, but.
Yep. But it was good. The other thing was, like, I don't know, I had 225 snatch right before I left. And I hadn't snatched for, like, 3 months.
Have you snatched since you've been back? Yeah.
I'm going to go for
We did do it yesterday.
1 rep today.
But you didn't get to train yesterday, yeah.
But it's good. It's good to be back. I don't think people... Well, anyways, one of the things that I miss most when I leave is not podcasting with you, but just like the time that we get to sit down and just process, talk, think. And
the time's really valuable to me.
it's super valuable. And when I'm gone, it's hard to get it. Like, I don't like to text, so it's virtually impossible to do it there. So I focus on what I want to aim at.
Yeah, I saw something about vacation. For me, it's more like you can just sit down and you get less distractions. That was the beauty of vacation, is it like removes some distractions from your life, so that you can really think quietly and clearly. And you kind of I always come back feeling more refreshed.
Yeah.
Like mentally.
Right.
Because it's just, there's so many things going on all the time that you don't really have time to think.
Mm-mm. No, it was good. It's also difficult on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, you just try to go, do, and then you end up just, hustling. Like, you wake up to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing, to get to the next thing, and you get to the end of your day, and you're like, man, did I end it? Or at least the way that my family does vacation. But that's enough about that, I guess. I don't know. It's just been a while since we've talked. Sorry, everybody, but we're
good.
catching up.
Yeah, so I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit today about, we've never talked about PEDs in CrossFit. Right. People seem to not really want to talk about it, but when people talk about it, it seems to get a lot of attention online, because I think a lot of people have a lot of really strong opinions, or at least it seems that way.
Right.
If you read comments on YouTube, or if you read posts about it or whatever. And then there was that one guy in the Canada East region that was 5th place.
Yeah.
I think he won a couple events. I remember watching some of those, and he won a couple events, and but he popped positive.
Right.
And now he's not going to the games.
Right.
Sucks for whoever was right behind him. Because they missed their opportunity for the last chance qualifier.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about that. I'm like, that seems unfair.
Well, yeah.
Well, what are you going to do? There's like things like that. It's like, what can you do about it? Because I'm sure there's other people out there that are taking stuff that don't get caught.
Right.
That wouldn't have said anything. Like, he wouldn't have said anything if he didn't get caught. Like, you'd better believe he'd have gone to the games and competed.
Of course not. So is that the first place that your mind goes, which is there just a bunch of guys out here not getting caught? Or do you think, like, do you immediately go to like a moral, like ethical thought when something like this happens?
So I don't necessarily have, I have opinions on these things, right? But
Sure.
I want to be able to talk about the opinions without saying like, oh, I try to have conversations. That's what I enjoy doing when we sit down and we talk. Like, we're not saying that like we know it, just talking about this thing, and then we can go back and forth on it, and we're not super attached to it, right? And what's true and what you should do with the situation. So like with something like this, from what I know that CrossFit's drug testing is not good.
For sure.
There.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, competing at the end of my career, I wasn't tested at all, ever.
Right.
And I competed at the games.
Yeah.
I competed at the regions. Like you if you qualify through the regionals, you get drug tested.
Mm-hmm.
But I know
so
that
there's a base layer of testing that
there's
everybody is
obviously
supposed to trust and believe that I am entering into the next, and this part of the competition is definitely fair because I know everybody else got tested like I got tested, and therefore here we go.
Yes.
Time to go.
Yes. Like at the regional level or the semifinal level, you get tested when you go to the games. So then therefore they can say every athlete that has gone to the games has been tested at least one point during the season. Mm-hmm. And then they have random testing on top of that so that you could be pulled at any point and be tested throughout the year whenever. So like I still get an email from drug testing, and I have to tell them where I'm going to be and for whatever days between the quarters, and every quarter I have to submit that email.
Right.
That would mean that they could come drug test me at any point. Mm-hmm. But it's up to their discretion. Like, it's like they could pick to drug test me.
Right.
Like, they randomly did one year when I posted my PR back squat.
Yeah.
They randomly came and drug tested me like the next week.
Right. They did it to Dane too, right? Didn't they do it to Alec?
I don't remember, but I don't remember. I know that they did it to me.
Right.
I don't remember about Alec and Dane. I think they tested them like at a competition when they went to a competition. A lot of times it's probably easier for them. I'm just assuming here. It's probably easier for them to have when all the athletes are together, like at a Wadapalooza or at a Dubai or at something like that. Then they can go test the athletes because they're all there in one place and they know where they are. That's probably much easier. Probably cost them less money.
Do you know, have you looked into what is your base level of knowledge on just drug testing in general?
This is what I'm going to say. So like I'm not that well versed in this topic. All I know is from what my experience over the last 12 years of competing and being drug tested, that it's kind of random seemingly, but you're going to get tested at the competitions.
Yeah. You
could get tested out of competition, but they're going to call you the day before and tell you if you're going to be drug tested. Like, it's not like they show up at your door and they knock on your door and then you have to report to them right then and there. It's like they'll call you the day before and be like, hey, you got a drug test tomorrow. What time are you available?
Right.
And you can come do that. And all I know is from like documentaries that I've watched with like Lance Armstrong and those types of people. Normally those guys, it's like they knock on your door and they're there and they come drug test you. Like like you don't have any advance notice.
They'll wake you up in the middle of the night.
Something like that.
Right.
That's from stories that I've heard. And that's all I have is just anecdotes.
For sure.
It's not like that with the way that I've done it in the last 12 years.
Right. So you think it's how do you feel about people using PEDs? And maybe that's the wrong way to phrase the question. It could be something like, is the question better if it's how do you
I think
how do you avoid doing them, or
so we can look at it two ways, I guess. One, we can look at it like I like to ask the question like we were talking about it last night. I like talking about we were talking about is 4 years of enough penalty for someone who pops positive? What should be the result of somebody who pops positive?
Right.
Should they be allowed to compete again?
Right.
Should they be allowed to compete next year? Should they get, like, baseball used to do, like, 20 games or 40 games or 80 games or whatever, and then they're back.
Right.
Should they be fined? Should they be... What should they be? What should happen to that person? What's the penalty?
Yeah.
And I think if you go down that road, it might be a little bit better to be able to talk about it.
All right.
Because it's really hard to say, like, this should be the penalty for this thing. Mm-hmm. It's clearly unfair. It's not right that somebody that's cheating.
Right.
It would help you in CrossFit.
100%.
And I'm not speaking from experience here, but I'm just saying that, like, that's what these drugs are made for. Like, they're made to help you recover. And CrossFit is a sport of recovery,
right?
And endurance. It's an endurance sport, but it's also the sport of recovery. So from my point of view, as an athlete, I can see how someone would say, someone could do some sort of performance-enhancing drug and say, justify it to themselves by saying, it's okay, I still work really, 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 really hard, and it's just the hard work that's gotten me to where I am.
Right.
I can see how somebody would justify that and say it.
Correct.
Because... like, I think that we work harder than anybody else. Like, I think that we work harder than anybody else, just like other people think they work harder than anybody else. Like, we put in hours, countless hours of work here. It would be very, very easy to justify that to yourself in your own head and say, it's just a hard work. Like, I'm working hard. It's just helping me recover a little bit. So I'd be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like, I can see how someone would justify that.
Yeah. And that's just them convincing themselves in their mind that they're doing something with words and their actions, and are they conflating something, or what is
no, it's something like I'm playing a game.
Okay.
Right? Like someone would do this with money in their job or something. Like, I'm just trying to play the game like everybody else is doing, and they'd be like, everybody else is doing it, I won't be able to compete at this level if I don't do this. Or
correct.
I'm trying to get an advantage, so I'm going to do this thing just like I'm assuming everybody else is doing it.
All right, let's go with the big pharma analogy of, if they put in the equation that their drug A will produce $2 billion, gross profit. How many lawsuits can we afford, and or sanctions or whatever can we afford if we get sued or if something happens? And at that point, it's like the largest lawsuit or whatever it was towards Johnson & Johnson was like $2 billion, let's say. But they made 20 off of the thing that they got fined $2 billion for. Does Johnson & Johnson care about not doing that again?
Yeah, so you're saying the penalty has to be strict enough to make you not want to. It has to incentivize you to not want to do that thing. Because you're saying, like, if I'm going to do something bad, or if I'm going to do something that's I know to be wrong, but I'm going to make, $1 million a year for the rest of my life.
Correct.
But I'm going to have to pay $10,000 in fines, and I'm going to have to sit out one of those 20 years. Like, then I'll probably take that risk. You're kind of like making the argument like professional athletes would make that don't have that much of a penalty, like a 20-game penalty or something like that in baseball. Why wouldn't you?
Right. It definitely exists. Like, I think they're 1-to-1 in certain arenas where it's like, the benefits of this definitely outweigh the penalty, which is where you started last night with.
Yeah. So yes, and I think that the penalty needs to be strict enough that it is you cannot do this thing, because the drugs right now, from what I hear, the drugs are ahead of the testing, right? Like, the testing protocol is not up to standard with the drugs. Like, people can get away with things now.
Oh, yeah.
But they are doing, like, for example, in weightlifting, they're doing retrograde testing. So, like, they're testing old samples, and all of these athletes just tested positive.
All of them.
Right? And they're all Olympic medalists, and they're all, have had their medals forever. What, do they just strip the medals from them,
Right.
Like, and those guys wouldn't have said anything if they wouldn't have gotten caught. You better believe that. Like, I just don't, and then, so let me take that on a personal level. So, because I'm speaking,
like that's where all of this conversation just exists on the personal level of, like, on a personal level.
Yeah. So for me personally, I'm saying all of these things, and this isn't me saying that I would do these things, right? This is me just talking to you saying I can see how someone can justify this in their head because I've put in the work for years and years and years and understand how you don't do well when you fail. The questions that come up in your head when you do fail of like, what, am I doing enough? What is happening right now? What is everybody else doing that I'm falling behind? Why am I falling behind? Whatever, like that happens. There's ups and downs and it's really difficult. If I ever decided to make a decision to do something like performance enhancing drugs to cheat, I would have to drag around this, 500-pound sled for the rest of my life, and I couldn't live with myself personally if I did that. Mm-hmm. It would be like me having to drag that around all the time.
Right.
It would consume my thought process. It would cloud me from my ability to see the world clearly. Like it would take away from my relationships. It would take away from my business and my gym. That's me personally. That's why I could never do it. That's why I've never done any performance enhancing drugs, whatever.
Right.
But I can see how someone could justify that to themselves. Yeah, just like I can see the ability for someone else to do something bad. Doesn't mean I'm going to go out and, kill somebody. But I can see the thought process behind something like that. Like I can see the ill intent there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Ben, don't you want to feed your family with the prize money and the sponsorship money that you'll get from recovering better and performing in your sport longer?
Sure, yeah, there's definitely that argument, and I don't know that that's just part of it. Like, I wanted to win for me. Like, this was for me. This wasn't about the money. Like, I didn't do this for money. I didn't do this for popularity, for notoriety. Yeah. I did this for me because this was like, I wanted to see the ability of my body to the limits that God put these abilities in my body to be able to do. Mm-hmm. I wanted to see what I was capable of.
Right.
Because I think that it's a shame if somebody goes through their life and not see what they're physically capable of. That's like an Aristotle quote or something like that.
Yeah. How much could you know about yourself if you've never been in a fight?
Sure, just the experience. Like you want to experience it, something like that, right? Like you want to see what you're capable of. You want to go see how far you can push yourself. I've always enjoyed that. I enjoy the process more than I enjoy the competing aspect of CrossFit. Like I've never loved going to the games and competing. I've loved the process of getting there, the testing, how you plan and you prepare and you make yourself ready, and then you go and test yourself. Mm-hmm. And then you go back to the drawing board and you repeat the process. And I enjoyed that iteration, to just go back through the process and put your head down and work for something. And, like for me, that's paid off in my career, right? Like, but it doesn't do that for everybody. Not everybody gets there. And it's a temptation to, I've got to feed my family, or I've got to make money or become popular or whatever, that definitely exists, and exists more in other sports than it does in CrossFit. Right. So CrossFit's just beginning. It's just starting. So it's just going through the infancy. Like it's learning how to walk right now with PEDs and the drug testing protocol. Like, I've sat down or I've talked to Dave here before. I'm like, the drug test, like you guys should be on top of your drug testing protocol a little bit more.
Do you think other people feel the same amount of pressure, or do you think others, of your caliber care as much as you do about this because of the personal, sort of values and I could use the word belief here, but it's not like belief that's like unwavering, unchanging, and also judgmental. Like, could you hold a belief and not judge someone who does do? I'm not like, I don't want to hate on someone that does. Like, I'm not trying to. Like, let's use this Canadian as an example.
Sure.
Like, what do you think about this Canadian who tested positive?
I'll try. I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
It's he had competed for 9 years and missed the cut, and then this year he qualifies, and then he said he didn't take it for that long, like only a couple weeks, and he didn't notice the difference, so he stopped taking it, but it was still in his system. Something like that.
Yeah.
I don't really care about the story.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't.
It's the first thing that matters once this happens. And
I got nothing against him. Like, I'm like, I get why he would do that. Like, I can put myself in his shoes and say, all right, 9 times you're just outside qualifying. Like, you feel like the rest of the field's just, and you're like, well, what can I do? I'm just going to assume everybody else is doing it. Whatever, like, you can justify that in your head real easy.
Right. Is this the same as, like, rep shaving? Like, is it, like, only you know? If you don't get caught, only you know, and the person or people or whatever that's helping you achieve what you're doing, PED-wise. It's interesting, like, why somebody would do it. Like, knowing you have a secret for forever. Why would you want that burden? Why does what do you think the overriding story is that they're telling themselves that gets them to the place where they don't think that they're carrying this burden anymore?
I don't think they ever think I'm not carrying a burden.
Right.
Just like you've done something stupid in your past, you're going to carry that.
Oh yeah.
You can't get rid of it.
Right.
Like it's like everybody's done something stupid in their past.
Mm-hmm.
So you can understand the feeling of justifying or validating that, like, oh, I was stupid. I was a little kid. Like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Like, and then you don't think about it again, but you still carry it, and it still pops up. It's still a memory. It's still a thought. It's still something that's in you until you confess to it or something. You know what I mean?
When you say you feel bad for him, is it like, let's say, do you think you would say you feel bad, and the reason you feel bad is because do you think the penalty is appropriate, or do you think he should be banned for life?
This is the question that I can't answer. I don't know. It's so hard to answer. Like, it needs to be strict enough that people aren't incentivized to do it. Like, and I would say, okay, let's imagine if it's just you get a $500 fine and you can't compete in the next competition.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Of course, I'm going to try. Everybody's going to try it.
Right.
So it's like baseball. If you give them just a 5-game suspension or a slap on the wrist, everybody's going to take that risk.
Right.
You have to set the rules enough that nobody wants to be challenged. Like, nobody wants to take that risk. If you said you can never compete for the rest of your career, you're done. Mm-hmm. You test positive, you're done. That's a little bit. That's completely on the other end of the spectrum.
Right. And
that would probably disincentivize people to want to do it.
Right. All right, so we're both Christians.
But I also believe that people should be, able to be forgiven for what they've done if they're repentive, right?
Right. So he told the truth.
Right.
He got caught, but he told the truth.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't have.
So now he's in, but you right. So I think that's the place that
this is my hang-up,
ethereal place where you get hung up, right?
Yeah.
Which is, and we can stay there, like we can talk there, because I mean it matters to you, so I don't care about talking about anything else. What's the hang up for you? Like, and try and describe it, and I'll try and process through it with you without needing to be correct.
The hang up for me. What's the hang up? Well, so when I say, me personally, I could never do something like that because I couldn't live with myself.
Yeah.
That's just, I'm wired that way. I can't.
Yeah.
But I could understand how someone else can be wired differently because I've done things in my past, right, that you don't like that now about yourself, but you've justified whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I can see where someone could go down that path. But it's unfair to all of the other competitors who are trying to make a living doing this, to compete, to win, to challenge themselves, whatever. Like, it's just unfair. So my hang up is just that it's unfair.
And I wonder if people are going to listen to this. Like, you're going to have people listening and be like, there's no way you're clean.
Sure, and that's what people say online. Like, everybody says everybody's cheating. They just throw it out there and everybody's on PEDs. So I understand that statement through this lens. Cycling, Olympic weightlifting, these sports that are, paying people $10, $20 million to represent their country, right? But even then,
state-sponsored doping.
Yeah.
But, even at these levels, whatever it is, like, for instance, well, I brought this up yesterday about Lance Armstrong, where I'm like, bro, he doesn't care about PEDs. He knows the 10 people that are in the peloton with him to win the Tour de France are all juicing too. All of them. So why would he care? And why would he even try to win? He knows he can't do it. The
if he doesn't
documentary,
take
the
if he doesn't take
Icarus
drugs, right?
proved this beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, the dude took drugs, owned up like like
the best,
made
of
a
the
documentary
best. Right.
and couldn't even touch the best of
Didn't
the best.
even get. He got from the third peloton to the second peloton barely.
And I get it, but like not everybody's gifted enough that they're going to be in that top peloton.
Yeah.
Right? Like not everybody's going to be a CrossFit Games athlete.
Yeah.
Just because they take drugs. Like that's
Right.
not what it is, and this is why you could justify it to yourself.
This is yes.
Is because it doesn't make an average Joe athlete the CrossFit Games champion.
Yeah.
But it makes someone who's already a CrossFit Games athlete, caliber athlete,
Yeah.
the best ever.
Right. Yes.
Like consistently. That's
Right.
that's what it would do. It's not just like a magic thing,
Yeah.
And I'm speaking about this again, like compared to the rest of the field, and how prepared are you for whatever test comes up?
And what about the personal frustration from this too, which I have been able to see the effects of what PEDs would have done for you in your career over the course of the last 9 years that I've been in Chesapeake.
It's a big what if, but yeah.
Right. So like personally, I can sit back and go, what if? Well, at this point, what if is pretty easy. It's like, how do you have to get, how well are your knees right now? How good are your knees at this point?
Right.
How much better is your body at 32 on PEDs than not? And
I don't know, but like I'm telling you that this CrossFit Games training stuff is all about recovery.
Yeah.
Because as I get older, I'm able to do less volume, right? But I see what I have done in the past, and I see what I remember what that feels like and what it was just pushing yourself to the limit every day, every session, all summer. Like literally you go till you break. That's what I did. I went until I broke.
Yeah,
I went until something broke,
Right.
and then I rested
Right.
when I needed to.
Yeah.
That was dumb, but I feel if I didn't do that,
Right.
and I didn't want to leave anything on the table. Like
Right.
I wanted to sell out and see what I could do. And this was my mentality when I trained.
Right.
And now it's, okay, I need to balance this. Like I got a lot of other things going on. I can't just dump all my chips in one basket.
Right.
If I hurt myself, like I can't play with my daughter or whatever. Like there's little things like
Yeah.
that. Like they matter. Like I used to hurt myself, tweak my back home and didn't want to do anything. Like it was almost like there's so many ups and downs because you had all of your chips and all of your eggs in that one basket.
Right.
People don't understand what that's like. Maybe
No, and I think
it's
this
very
is a
easy.
good. I think this is a good perspective where it's like, like, oh, woe is me. I'm just talking about me and my feelings, and stop being a punk and a chump, man. Suck it up. Do what you need to do. Like, stop blaming. The what ifs out
and
there.
that's what I always wanted to do.
The cloud of potentiality that exists of whether or not the guys at the games this year or last year, the year before, 2016 or 2013 or whatever it was, like whether they were or they weren't, you didn't care. But for the first time yesterday, I heard you say something that really, really piqued my interest that I think is what everybody else sort of wants to know, which is like, no, this is personal for you. Like I have an outsider's perspective on, well, I'm glad this guy gets redemption. I'm glad he gets, his 4 years. I'm glad he told the truth. And that's a start for the life of CrossFit and truth-telling in regards to getting caught in
Not making
PEDs.
up a story.
Yeah, not making up a story
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Sure.
Like I can find, we'll call that the silver lining. But this is way, way, way past that for you. This is like keep you up at night type stuff.
It can be. But it can be, right?
It could be. Yeah, okay.
But you can't let it. You can't let it be that, because if you're an athlete and that's what you're thinking about, you're not going to do well. How do
Okay.
I know? I know it from experience.
Right.
Because I let that bother me.
Yeah.
And if you let it bother you, it will consume you like that.
Right.
Like it eats you up. And you feel like there's no point in you even training. There's no point. Like there's all these thoughts that go through your head. And I'm
Right.
revealing these thoughts because I think they matter. Like Because for me personally, they mattered I needed to go through that to understand that, like, I can't control what anybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not my job.
Right.
My job is to try to compete.
Right.
Or at least that was my job.
Right.
And all I can do is do that.
Yeah.
It's CrossFit's job to set up the right structure and testing protocol to catch people that are cheating.
Okay.
Like, this has nothing to do with, this is not me. Like, I can't change that.
Right.
Like, if somebody wants to do whatever, I can't change it.
Yeah. So
I have to control and focus what I can control and focus on. That's it. Like, it doesn't matter what else.
do you think that a lifetime ban is the move?
I think that.
Or do you want to talk about, what do you think a lifetime ban hypothesis?
That's a good question. And it's all hypothesis.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Like, it would definitely keep people from wanting to try that.
It would probably keep the majority of people who take this serious from doing it. But I think I think this Canadian would still have, though. If it's because I've missed it 9 years.
Why not? I'm 28.
Why not? I'm going for it.
There's always going to be that person
to get there. There's always going to be that person, right?
No matter what rules you set,
correct.
There's always going to be that person that'd be like, worth it, and they're going to go for it.
For sure.
Like, there's that everywhere.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
So therefore, I don't think that.
Right. So there's no absolute fix.
There's no perfect absolute solution.
Correct.
Because you can't get the drug testing protocol up to the speed of the drugs.
Correct.
Because there's always more money in the drugs than there is in the drug testing program.
100%.
Because nobody really cares about. Nobody cares about the truth that much that they're going to put all their money in the drug testing protocol.
Right.
It's evident throughout history that that's the case.
And it's definitely not advantageous.
Yeah, like, what if CrossFit started, like, just cracked down and tested everybody 10 times a year? It would cost them so much money.
Right.
And really strictly. And you can't just, one year, I remember, we got tested at regionals, and the top 2 or 3 got blood tested, and everybody else didn't. I finished 4th that year. I didn't get blood tested.
Yeah.
And it was only at, like, 2 of the 10 regionals or whatever, where 2 or 3 people got blood tested. And I'm like, what's the point? Why would you do that? Why would you, just because it's expensive, you're only going to blood test 2 of the athletes, 3 of the athletes?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Like, that made me feel like they're not really taking this seriously. So, but maybe they are. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it from my experience with that whole situation.
And the most charitable response to them in that is, you run a business, I run a business. I understand the equation of A plus B equaling C, and that C being profitability. If drug testing is a factor in that equation and it takes you away from profitability.
Yeah, like this CrossFit HQ now, especially, they're not going to do it. You know,
like you're out.
It's very clear what they're about. They're about whatever makes them the most money.
Correct. And that's the equation that businesses run through.
Yes.
That's the pattern.
Traditionally, yes. CrossFit was different. In the beginning, they were different. That's what I liked about them.
Yes,
is that they stood out. They were against the grain. Like, they did things. He left money on the table. Like, he always said that he tried to do that. He didn't take sponsors. Like, he didn't want to be controlled. He wanted to do what was right. It was a breath of fresh air in the world that's just crooked constantly. You know.
Yes.
And people don't see that. People don't get that. And if you continue to go down this road that we're going down, it will be indistinguishable from the rest of the world. It will be just another big business like everything else is. And it'll be corrupted by who has the most money and who's in control and knows the right people.
Right.
Like, that's why we're on the podcast talking.
Right. I've been fascinated by the Formula One show on Netflix. You watched it yet?
Mm-mm.
It's really, really good. If you need some, like, fun entertainment that's light but also not light, like, you can take it as serious as you want to take it, and you can tell that, I mean, this is like the one of the, you know, he's called the principal of the team, is the head guy. He was like, yeah, my order of importance of things in my life: number 1, family; number 2, Formula One. There are no more. Right. So this is I mean, like beyond,
So do you,
purposeful for this man in his life and what he does.
do you
in
think
this
people
scene.
understand that? Like, do
When
you
they're
think people
watching?
get that mindset outside of the people that are in that racing arena? Like, because I think that people can get that mindset because I think that they can understand it on some other level. Like, you can find truth. Might not be me invested in Formula One racing,
Right.
but it's me invested in CrossFit, or it's me invested in my job, or it's me invested in my relationship with my wife,
Yes.
or my child.
Yes.
Like, I can understand how someone can be all consumed in something so much that they're blind to everything else.
Correct.
Do you think that people can do that, or do you think that that's just something that, when people make comments like everybody's on drugs, like or
It's almost like the hot take comment on YouTube or whatever should be like 2 or 3 thoughts further down the road. For a couple different reasons, which is that like most comments are going to have a good rebuttal for them, right? They're going to have a shadow side to that comment.
Mhm.
There's going to be some type of synthesizing of the comment and the rebuttal. And then there's going to be a new conversation that comes out of that synthesis. So,
but the truth's somewhere in the end there. It's not in the beginning. It's not
going to
like,
be right.
hey,
Yeah,
all the athletes are on performance-enhancing drugs.
For
Like,
sure.
Okay, no, I know that that's not the case. Don't
Right.
say something like that. That's stupid. That's not really that helpful.
Well, it's not helpful, especially
say a
to
lot of
you
them
because
are.
it's personal. Where you're like, no, I'm not, and it's cost me a lot.
A lot. Yes.
Like, it's like
More than you'll ever know.
100%.
And
nobody gets that. Where
And I just want to like say something,
right,
but it's like, who are you going to talk to? What are you going to say? Like,
right, and it's a little bit of like when we were talking yesterday. I heard a little bit of not preaching coming from you, but it was the first time that I heard you say like raw emotion towards it, where it was, this actually really bothers me because I believe what I got into is antithetical to doing PEDs.
mm-hmm.
And the thought that there's a gigantic problem that exists out there where it is, I don't actually know the answer and I'll never know the answer. And because I'll never do this, I'm left in this weird limbo of coming to grips with what? I just need to...
With like reality, right? Like
Yeah,
the
it's like-
reality of you have to figure out for yourself what's right for you. Like how you can move forward in the world that is this way.
Right.
That you can't understand.
Yeah.
That you can't fully grasp. Like,
Which
you're
is
not
what
gonna know.
CrossFit was which is what CrossFit is drawing you out of. Like, it is pulling you out of tomfoolery. That is the fitness industry and everything in its allure. CrossFit took you out of that. Which is, that's where we started last night too.
Where was that?
The transformation that comes from this place, that came from this program.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just...
I think that's what we're trying to do when we sit down and have these conversations, is
Right.
to bring back that nostalgic understanding of what CrossFit is, what the games are, what athletes could be, what people could be when they walk in the door,
Right.
what they should be doing, what they should be thinking about, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's almost like, if the ideology was pure, here's what is the result of it,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is I don't know if the games are all clean. I don't think so. Like, my
Right.
gut feeling tells me they're not,
Let's say you stop competing
but I can't.
competitively tomorrow. You're like, I'm never going to go to another competition again. Do you do PEDs then?
No. This is why, like, me personally, no, I can't do it. I just can't do it. That's where I am.
Is it because it makes you synthetic, or it inserts you into some hyper reality that's not actually who you are? Or, and Ben, why are PEDs bad with recovery, but you enjoy the
No, it's a legitimate question.
They're taking advantage of the best supplements.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a supplement that
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking. You know?
Easy way to rationalize it, yeah.
Right, because you could play that game with yourself too. Of I am taking myself to my peak performance.
Yeah. Yeah, I really want to see what I'm capable of.
I'm
whatever.
risking it all. You said you risked it all to the point where you would break
Mm-hmm.
to find out how good you could get. They're saying I'm risking it all.
And I'm willing to sacrifice my life for it.
Right.
Sure. Meaning like health-wise.
Health-wise, right?
Yeah.
I'm willing to take the risks of a bad batch of this or
that exists.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
So I'm not naive to the fact that exists. I'm also not naive to the fact that people think everybody's on it. I know that I'm not, and there's people that aren't.
Right.
Like I know that exists too. So it's like, what do you do with all of that, and how do you grapple with it? That's all a personal thing. Like that's on the level of the individual athlete,
mm-hmm.
and everybody's going to deal with that differently.
Right. So have you ever gotten to a point where in your training you thought this is futile? I don't actually stand a chance because I'm a clean racehorse and all of the racehorses that I'm running.
Yeah, I think I've talked about that before, but it's like I always had the belief that I was going to win the games at some point. I think you have to have that belief if you want to win the games. And it was like in 2015. Like if I didn't win that year, I was like, man, should I keep doing this? Should I keep making this attempt to run through this brick wall? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where my mindset was. But
yeah,
by the grace of God, I won that year.
By the grace of God, you won that year. It was a really fun vibe here at the gym and even in the area. Like it was fun. The signs, the belief, yelling at my TV at the end, watching you almost break your back doing those kettlebell kettlebell deadlifts at the end. It was awesome.
But it's hard training for that at that level for that long, and then just consistently falling short. Like, and I get what that feels like.
Yeah,
did it.
Right.
Been there, then been at the top. Get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the thing everybody's looking for. Like it's great. Like you accomplish your goal. It's like hitting your PR in the gym. Like it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. There's all the emotions that come with it, and they're all great. They're good. Like celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a deeper meaning, like there's still a deeper purpose to your life and to things that you're going to do. So then you take that step further and try to balance all the things that you have going on in your life. And it's like, that's not everything anymore to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was in the past.
Right. Like you're not willing to break anymore.
Sure. Yeah. I'm training, I'm training, helping Laura train for the games right now. And it's like, hey, I'm going to sit this workout out because I can't do 5 today.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but I'm going to do my best to push you in whatever aspect that I can.
Mm-hmm.
She's on another level this year.
She is on
another level.
Mm-hmm.
Like last year I was beating her and stuff. Like I can barely beat her in things that I'm good at this year. It's crazy. And it's not me, it's her. Like I'm still fitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the point. Like,
which is crazy.
Another wild testament to, the truth that is this methodology. Do you still think people are actually, here's an interesting question. DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, is suspended the first 6 games of this season for PEDs.
What do you take?
Haven't looked it up.
Okay.
I don't care. Like,
okay.
I don't think less of him.
No. I'm not saying it like that. Well, I'm just curious as to what it was.
This is I'm thinking out loud at this point. Not that I don't care about what it was.
You're saying your perspective is different than an athlete on the field.
I'm not. Who do I think is the second best wide receiver in the NFL? Let's go. Cooper Kupp, just because he was the best in the NFL last season. I'm not Cooper Kupp, so I don't care about DeAndre Hopkins cheating. I play fantasy football, so I'm a little upset that I can't draft DeAndre Hopkins and and win fantasy football or whatever it is. But like, I also am not like really upset at DeAndre Hopkins' character. At this point, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like you're signing $20 million contracts, $25 million contracts.
Yeah. So should any of these outside point of views even matter? Like, should any of these people that are saying what they're saying online, like, should they even matter?
No.
Like, I don't think they should. Like, I think because they're not they don't care. Like, they're not.
Matter might be the wrong word. So it's like, what is really taking place here so like, I care about what you think. I care about what the gyms think. I care about the expanding circles, the circles within circles within circles. And as that grows, that number grows exponentially to the amount of opinions that get to be inserted into this. We're not supposed to know what the world thinks about this, though. Like, that's the one thing that the internet tricks you in.
Yeah, it is a trick because, yeah, you're right.
Thinking that the comment section matters, but it's not that it doesn't matter because those people matter.
I like to use it to help me find the truth. Like, I like to use it as like, hey, here's all of these other opinions. Where's the sliver of truth in that opinion? Where are they wrong?
Right.
What's so, like, right and what's wrong, and you can read through it. Yeah.
Like one, like you could.
But yeah, you're right. They don't.
Right.
They don't
so
actually.
Peter says sports evolve with or without drugs. Do I care about what Peter has to say in his comment?
But that's a true statement, right?
That's a true statement. It's good.
They
to
evolve
think
faster
about.
with drugs.
Right. That could help me.
There's results of every action people take. There's results that come from it. Like there's patterns that follow patterns that follow actions.
Right.
Like if you do one thing, something does come from it.
Yeah.
If you act in a certain way, there is a result, byproduct, whether it's in a year or in 100 years. Like there's a result.
Right.
Resulting action that comes from what you're doing. Just like if CrossFit sets their drug testing protocol up to just give somebody a slap on the wrist, what's going to happen is everybody's going to try dip their feet in this because they want to win. So they have to set it up so that it's the most strict, rigid thing that they can.
Yeah, I'm not sure that treating humans like a race car might be wrong. Might not be good sense making though.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Same guy that you were just talking about said, if you're entering higher level competition, you're accepting the fact that other athletes will be on PEDs. In what you choose what to do with that information. Like,
right.
Yeah,
Which is true. Yeah,
right? But that's what we're talking about. Like, is it appropriate that you treat an athlete like that?
No.
Like a racehorse?
Well,
race car?
Well, to the point, you could come back to the original comment maybe, or what, I don't know how far into it is, but sports evolve, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Basketball as an example. The sport of basketball is not riddled with PEDs. You just don't hear about it. I'm not sure why. It could be, but you never hear about somebody in the NBA testing positive for a PED. Ever.
Maybe that's because it's such a skill-based sport.
Could be.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure.
I'm not saying why it would definitely help.
Right. It has so many different bodies, body types to play the game, types to win. Mm-hmm. It's pretty wild.
I don't know what their testing protocol is like. I don't know if it's...
Right. But the 1970s basketball player compared to the 2020 basketball player, that's a different human. Like the 2020 human is drastically stronger, faster, more capable than the 1950s human. That's one statement.
Okay.
And you could take it as a hypothesis of something along the lines of that's just natural, sort of his original comments. Like, Well, people are going to evolve.
Yeah, people are going to get better
People are
at the
going to
skills,
just-
the sports, because they're going to learn how to train better. They're going to be smarter and wiser with their recovery protocols. They're going to be better with. They're going to start the sport earlier. You know, they're just going to grow. The competition brings that out of you.
For sure. But even more so, I guess the angle that I'm looking at is the angle of like genetics, right? Like the best female basketball player in the world and the best male basketball player in the world fall in love and they start a family and have, 10 children. Dude, the chances of those kids dominating both parts of that sport is very real.
Sure, but it wouldn't just be because of their physical attributes. That would just be a part of it. It would also be because their life probably would revolve around that sport because they are absolutely obsessed with it and at a younger age than other kids, and they have the means to do it, and they have everything pushing. They have all of the tailwinds pushing them in a certain direction.
Yeah.
So it's it's going to evolve, obviously.
Yeah. Is there a way for it to naturally do that, though?
What do you mean naturally?
Like the CrossFit thought is taking a human and creating Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
naturally, though.
It's naturally evolved
right
already.
So, yeah, you can see its natural evolution.
Yeah.
And then you can see its natural evolution plus the PED insert into that evolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm understanding you say, no, it's meant to just be natural and stay natural. And
that's
I
obviously
don't know why anybody else would. I don't know why we're even talking about it not remaining natural. This doesn't make any sense.
Not at all. I think there's the temptation to do that, and there are going to be people that do that no matter what.
What about the bodybuilding solution, natty, and natural bodybuilding versus not?
I mean, it's clear the difference between the two. It's very clear. It's
right,
not
so
like
do you think there's,
it's not like it's one works harder than the other.
Not at all.
It's just one's willing to take more risk than the other.
Right. Correct.
And risk in all kinds of different domains, not just
right.
One
but Ben,
risk.
That's not actually dangerous. No, you're wrong. Ryan Coleman's had
whatever.
4 heart transplants.
He would say, I don't know what he would say, but
it was worth it.
Worth it, maybe. Who's Ronnie Coleman when he doesn't do that?
And this is
That's
the
such an interesting-
weird.
It's so weird.
The weird psychological conundrum of
What are you chasing? What's your goal?
yeah.
What do you want?
What
it's
do you believe in?
Where when you have all of these desires, this is your desire to do this thing. How far are you willing to go to reach that desire? It's like some people will go, they will give everything. They will sacrifice everything for that.
I guess to your point,
I'm not going to sacrifice everything.
This is going to become so nuanced the further you get into this conversation. It's pretty interesting. I like having the conversation. And I like the ability for people to comment so that they can think. But you got to come back full circle to a very pinpoint, precise place to base your I guess I don't know, the origin, the meaning, the beginning of everything. We argue over the Big Bang. We argue over creation. We argue to this really finite point to get to truth, because you have to have your starting point to extrapolate from, to add in nuance. Do you think that's what you're doing, where it's no, this is natural? What is this pinpoint start of CrossFit, and then you go from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're trying to describe, right? That's what we're trying to get to. What is it? What is it that makes it what it is, and what does it represent? What type of athlete should it breed? What should be your mindset? What should be the mindset of that athlete? I mean, all of these things, right?
Yeah, because we said that the CrossFit Games and the CrossFit Games champ is inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Laura wants to work.
Dope.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Dude, there's this song